Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our discussion of Presumed Innocent, episode 6. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Helen.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. This episode is entitled The Elements and is also directed by Greg Utanis with cinematographer Doug Emmett. So we open in the trial again, but this time we're in Rusty's imagination, which we already know to be an interesting place. He's picturing himself walking around the courtroom as the case progresses, almost as if he was the prosecutor, until he's very suddenly screaming expletives and shaking the shit out of his bestie, the medical examiner. Back in reality, however, he's behaving himself and sitting as he's supposed to, as they're showing photos of Carolyn's scalp wound, as Kumagai details the forensic findings. Carolyn bled to death before the hemorrhage could kill her. She died between 10 p.m. and midnight. She was struck on the back of her head, fell forward, bruising her face, and then the fatal blows were struck. 2 more blows to the head, these while she was down on the ground. Then there are, of course, traces of the defendant's skin under the victim's fingernails. Oh, and also his baby in her belly. Tommy adds in the paternity test for good measure and then hands it over to Raymond, who just clarifies that none of this evidence says anything about who swung the weapon, right? He rests after that, but Tommy couldn't let that lie, even after Nico tells him to let it rest. Instead asks about Rusty's emotional visit to Kumagai. I was initially surprised he hadn't asked that in his primary questioning, but that is explained soon. Raymond responds by asking Kumagai if he has a psychological degree, and then manages to manipulate him beautifully. He suggests that perhaps his prejudice against Rusty, maybe even all prosecutors. He called Rusty an asshole. Has he ever called Raymond an asshole? How about Tommy? And it works perfectly, as Kumagai loses his shit in front of the jury, screaming at Raymond.
The very first part when Rusty's in the dream,
Yeah.
there's this like weird moment where he walks up to Kumagai and like has this weird smile. I don't know, it just struck me as odd, but I don't know what it was about really.
Right.
Is that at the same time that he kind of like shouts at him?
Yeah, I think it was right before.
Right before.
Sometimes his expressions are complicated in an interesting way.
Yes.
Right.
Good way to say it. Yeah. I really like Jake's acting in this, so yes, I find it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I found an interesting editing choice to show the scenes at Carolyn's while Kumagai is speaking, like step after step what happened, and it being so visually perfect reenactment of probably what happened, but in between we see Rusty. So it's the question again, is this his imagination or are these his memories of what happened?
Right.
I like that it's ambiguous that way.
Definitely. Yeah, it was really helpful to see because if you just heard him explaining it, it was a little confusing to follow how each one of the moments took place during the murder, like where she hit her head or hit her nose. Like, I don't think they had really talked about that before, or if they did, I kind of missed that detail.
No.
So that it was very violent and like intense, but also, like you said, showed exactly what he was describing so you could follow it. So yeah, that was a very genius editing.
That's interesting that for some reason I hadn't thought about that being in Rusty's head. I just thought they were visuals for the audience, but you're right. All of, I think, visuals like that are what he's thinking about. And even though the coroner talked about how she was, I don't remember the exact words he used, but as we saw her face or her head smashing against the mantle, I mean, he doesn't say anything about what could have done that trauma. So the fact that we have a visual of what her face like was smashed into is like, is that a detail that Rusty is bringing to this? Because he was there. It could just be like, even in the coroner's imagination of how this could have happened. But still, if that is coming out of Rusty's head, if he's imagining it as the coroner is describing it, if that's really what happened.
I think the ME Kumagai, I think he mentions that there was blood found on the mantle. So this is like...
Oh, okay.
But still, it's like we see Kumagai, then we see the description of what happened, and in between we see Rusty, not Kumagai.
Yeah. And follows the pattern that we've seen in all the episodes too, of like those random flashes of him visualizing her. So
yeah.
I kind of want to, my gut has always been to kind of want to root for Rusty in this, even though it doesn't really make sense. But at the same time, it's those personal flashes he has of him being aggressive towards her that definitely keeps him like, you know, he's not ruled out at all. He hasn't been.
Yeah. Kate sort of already said this, but Raymond like taunting Tommy and Kumagai into just acting like total unprofessional dicks.
Shit thing one, shit thing two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the best.
Yeah.
And it was so easy.
It was easy because they're both
Yeah.
like that anyway.
Right. He knows him too well. It was amazing.
That moment where he was like, I don't like, where he first says he doesn't want to question Kumagai, and then he's like, well, wait a second, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, this is gonna be good. I can just feel it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So good.
I just watched an episode just filled with like flashback scenes of Kumagai fighting with like Raymond, Tommy, Nico, Rusty. It would be so funny, and
Right.
it made me laugh. Obviously, I really like Raymond, but when he's like, "You shouldn't have quit your day job." Oh wait, you got fired.
Hey, that was a good American accent, Kimberly. That was
Oh,
good.
thank you.
It was.
I'd say the common denominator of all of this interaction is Kumagai. So maybe Kumagai is the asshole. And
Yeah.
people just reacting.
Right. Yeah.
He's great. James Hiroyuki Lau plays Kumagai, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
So the scene in the car, we learn why he didn't ask about that initially. Nico didn't want Tommy to get into any of that. He just wanted the forensic data, and now they have an aggrieved grudge-bearing ME instead. Or as Nico put it, a net fucking loss. That whole testimony. And now we hear Nico ask about the skin under the nails. Oddly, it wasn't in the initial report. Tommy unconvincingly claims FSC was backlogged and implies they just didn't take enough time with that analysis. So I guess they did just make that up, which is dangerous. He can get off on that whether he's guilty or not. Do any of you not think he just made that up? The skin under the nails, or placed it, or whatever?
I don't know, because when we see later, we see the not quite sure what his actual title.
The forensics.
Yeah,
Right.
the forensics guy was saying that, you know, they did find the DNA. And I remember us talking about this actually in one of the previous episodes, like how, you know, how does it actually come across on people? Like, can you just touch them with your finger and stuff like that? So that gave me an answer.
Right.
Mhm.
That also confused me, but I think because they've made such a point of it, in my opinion, that they placed, and they may have placed the skin there and the DNA or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't think they would be talking about it quite so often if it weren't.
Yeah, it is unclear actually, now that you've said that. It's
Mhm.
Another thing that could go either way.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they mentioned it was just one fingernail. So they had the DNA under
Mm.
one fingernail, and it was cells. So not really
Yeah.
skin from like scratching someone.
Right. Like a defensive.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Kumagai then again said she probably wasn't expecting an attack
Yeah.
at all. So that's why there are no
Mhm.
defense.
It seems so like shaky. It just doesn't seem like much evidence. So it'd be hardly worth placing, but I think they did because they keep talking about it.
Especially since they had an intimate relationship, because that was
Yeah.
the first thing I thought when they talked about his DNA under her fingernails. I was like, okay, yeah, but they're also lovers. And
Right.
I think he at least says they kissed that night. No matter what the truth actually is, they touched. I mean, it's not a stretch that she would have his DNA under her fingernails.
Not at all. Right.
Especially because, as clarified later, it's not like it was chunks of skin that
Yeah.
she clawed out of him.
Right. They're saying it's not a defensive wound. He's already said he was there. Like, I don't know why it's even notable, really.
Maybe it's just because people like it's going to sound to the jury bad. Yeah.
Anything to create reasonable doubt.
It's like it takes additional explanation to really understand that, because like even when we were talking about it, we weren't sure how that would work.
Mhm.
Like, do you have to be scratched deeply for that to happen? I think if I was sitting in a jury, that would stand out to me, even if I
Yeah.
then was explained like, oh, actually it can just come from touching the person briefly, you know?
Right.
So I wonder if they're just trying to make it like a question in the jury's mind now,
Right.
adding doubt, like you said.
I was just going to give a shout out to the cinematography and directing of this car scene. It was probably my favorite of the whole episode, and the music as well. I thought it was just shot to perfection.
Yeah. It seems like it would be hard to do too in like a small space.
Yeah. I always wonder how they get all the big cameras and shit in those places.
Yeah, especially that, because they're like back and forth across the back seat.
Backseat. Yeah.
These scenes between Nico and Tommy always surprise me a little bit, because when they're by themselves, I don't hear them conspiring, or I don't hear them like I guess that's what I had expected, was they would be playing dirty. And even if Tommy is, it doesn't sound like Nico's on board with it, because he questions it. He questions Tommy when they have those conversations alone. Because it seems to me that even if Tommy is maybe playing dirty, Nico wants to play it straight. Do you guys get that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, and I don't know if it's totally that in my mind. I mean, it's definitely more of that than it was before, but also Nico just realizes how emotionally unhinged Tommy is about this whole thing. So he wants to win the case. But even if there is a bit of conspiring, which I don't know that we've seen clear evidence of that, I think he would still react that way to Tommy because Tommy is being so emotional about this case and he knows he's going to like bust it because he's being like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And emotion doesn't play into this. You should just focus on the facts and the evidence, and emotions should not be playing into his job.
Yeah.
I feel like the one thing that I feel confident about by the end of the show is that Tommy will not have his job any longer.
That would be great.
I don't know why, but that's what I would bet money on.
This is going back to the courtroom, but when they're talking about Rusty going to see the body of Carolyn and they're making a big deal out of like, oh, he never went to go see bodies of other victims. I was like, well, because they weren't his friend / lover / coworker. Like, you know, seemed like a weak argument to me.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Right.
That's interesting. Now I wonder, do lawyers actually, is that like a thing that they do? Like go to the coroner's office to see stuff like that? Like I feel like they wouldn't. But
yeah, I feel like they wouldn't.
They might not. Investigators do, but I don't know if a lawyer would.
Yeah.
Now Raymond's debriefing and planning with Rusty and Barbara, strategizing that they shouldn't look at the photographs in court tomorrow, and also that they weren't big fans of the body language today. Maybe Rusty could put his arm around Barbara on the way in and shield her from all the cameras and the press. Barbara pushes back. She's not going to be anything but who she is or project anything but how she really feels, which is shocked and horrified. Maya can't even get through to her, telling Barb that her anger isn't going to win the day, but Barb genuinely does not give a fuck what they think. This is the darkest hour of my fucking life. I will not pretend otherwise. Not for you two, not for that jury. I know I say this a lot, but I think Ruth Negga is such a phenomenal actress.
Yo, that was great. I got goosebumps after her little speech.
I know.
It's amazing. She's so good.
Yeah.
I love how she delivered those lines in particular, but just everything she does.
Yeah, she even like shakes a little bit, like her mouth was like shaking. And I was like, man, I don't even know how you make your body do things like that while you're acting.
Right.
But I just added so much like,
Yeah.
Ooh, she was like simmering in that scene.
Yeah.
Well, and really, you know, we talk about how calm she is, but I feel like this is her just really trying to hold it in because, you know, they're basically telling her how to act and how to behave in public, and she's like, you know what, fuck that, because everything that she's going through, she's like, I'm going to be truthful, and she's not making a scene, she's not outwardly being angry or avoiding, and like she says, the fact that she is there shows how she feels about her husband's innocence, and she wants the jury to see her being truthful. But you can just tell she would probably have an outburst in a moment like this, but she's holding it in, and I feel like it's coming out with those shakes. It's a beautiful performance, so good.
Yeah, I think this goes along with her character of what we've seen so far, though. Like she's so strong, and even though she's been like staying with Rusty, trying to hold the family together, she has this like she said in an earlier episode, like, I don't need you to protect me or to be my, I don't remember how she phrased it, but like she's got her own, she's very independent and strong, and this shows that she's holding on to that no matter what happens. I like that.
That does annoy me like a lot though, that they're trying to paint him as her fucking protector when he's literally done the most extreme opposite
Right.
of that to his entire family. He's like just crushed them emotionally and mentally. He's endangered them physically. Yeah, that would have rubbed me wrong too.
They're just trying to win the case though, aren't they? So
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
would have done that to me as well. Obviously, I would have been like, hey, fuck off.
Yeah.
Right.
But what did you think of Rusty's reaction to that? He didn't say anything, but I was trying to read his face, but I couldn't really.
Yeah, he just like waiting for her reaction, I guess. You know, like he really holds back his opinion there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to read him either.
Just in regards to Barbara being so strong in a way that, like, given the situation, I would probably want to avoid being drawn any kind of attention to in the room as well in the courtroom. So I would probably, have this need or this feeling to like hide in my shell and become invisible.
Right.
So this is like speaks to her strength that in this situation that is like at most uncomfortable you can get, she still says, this is what I'm gonna do, and you can deal with that, or if you don't, I don't care. So it's like speaks to her strength.
Yeah.
And she is not, I kind of thought for a second about the discussion she had with her psychologist, where the psychologist said that Barbara has the pathological need to please or something like that. And I felt like in this moment, it was absolutely the opposite of what she's, the psychologist accused her of doing.
True.
All the time, like staying with Rusty for the family, forgiving Rusty for the family. So that was, for me and for Barbara's character, a huge development, her stating her ground, right?
Yeah, good point.
Although the next thing we see is her annoyed while Rusty shelters her under his arm on the way into the courthouse. So she's...
The cut to him doing that after her during that speech was so just infuriating.
And the look on her face.
Yeah.
But also in his face, he's like, oh, wait, we're supposed to hug her or shield her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't he sort of double back?
So fake. Yeah. It feels very not genuine.
He does it twice.
He does it later, too.
2 times in the episode that happens. And you're right, it is like an afterthought. They start up and then he's like, oh, shoot. And he goes back and puts his arms around her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels so manufactured. Yeah.
And it also kind of just underlines exactly what Barbara means. Like, we can see that was fake.
Yeah.
Right.
So why shouldn't the jury see that this is fake, even if we do?
Right.
Right.
Agreed.
I think like faking affection is one of the like hardest things to do
Mm-hmm.
it's so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. That would kill me to do that.
Yeah.
It does look like Rusty's at least watching the photos, though, in the next scene. It's hard not to, since the pathologist is presenting them as directly in front of him, and Barb, too. His actual testimony introduces a new-to-me fact, anyway, that they found Rusty's saliva on Carolyn's cheek and shirt collar. We didn't know that, did we?
Oh, no.
Okay. And then primarily, he highlights how rare it is to have so little DNA on the rope that she was tied up with. So it looks like an angry, uncontrolled act of killing, and then a very controlled and, through education or experience, fastidious post-mortem act of tying her up. So that's back to, like, I don't know, a scenario like the son did it, or 2 people were involved anyway. One committed the murder and one the cleanup.
Was there a picture of Rusty leaving from Michael?
No, because Michael said he left before Rusty had left.
Right, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But what I found interesting is that Kumagai said the death probably occurred between 10 p.m. and midnight.
Yeah.
And Rusty went in at 9:46 or 49.
49, yeah.
And his phone logs say he stayed there for 50 minutes or 52 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is a large chunk of that.
So if he arrived at 10, left at 11, it still leaves like at least an hour window opportunity for someone else to get in, kill her, tie her up.
Hour and 20. He should have left at 10:40, right?
Yeah.
He got there at 9:49 and they said he was there for 51. I think they said 51 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like they would have had to have known what they were doing, right? Because it was, to me, an hour to do that is kind of quick. Tie her up properly like that and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
be so meticulous about it.
Yeah.
Also to time it perfectly with him leaving and all that happened when he was there, like, I don't know. There's a lot of timing.
Why do we know when he left?
His phone logs, right?
I think it was his phone logs.
They show where he was.
Yeah.
That was something that was in a conversation with Maya,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
who said, well, 52 minutes, that's a long time to argue.
Yeah.
Right.
So they must have tangible evidence that he left around 11.
Maybe his location.
There was something that logged when he got home.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing it could be is tracking, like, the geographic data on his phone, right? Location data.
Mm.
If it wasn't Rusty, it had to have been someone who was following him. It's got to be someone who knew that something was going on.
Yeah.
There being like almost no time for this to happen pretends. The theory of this being 2 people,
Yeah.
there must have been someone who were following Rusty, as Kimberly had said.
Which is crazy.
that knew to go in, right?
Mhm.
Like, it was in the middle of the night. Michael was there. Michael left without having seen anyone. And then someone comes in the moment Rusty leaves to kill her, tie her up without leaving any kind of evidence in a window of 1 hour.
Right.
Also, can you imagine just like if they were following Rusty, which like, yeah, it seems like they obviously were. How long did it take them to get that opportunity? They had to follow him from the bar with like the rope.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like ready just in case.
Yeah.
I know.
It's just in my backpack just in case this is the night.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, but Rusty also didn't have a rope with him. So
right.
Okay, maybe they took a rope from Carolyn's place.
The house. Right.
But then it would have had trace evidence.
Or they stashed something somewhere.
Or they had it stashed, or they were in the car and they had the rope in the car. But if the rope came from Carolyn's house, it probably would have had traces of DNA of Carolyn or the housekeeper that was mentioned that lived there, and Carolyn has been found by her. It's really like almost impossible for someone to just, pretend to be there.
Right.
So this scene made me though think more about when he was yelling at his son, were you casing the joint? That question would make sense in a scenario where Kyle did it and he cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like there has to be a crime in place that you know about before you ask someone if they were casing the joint.
I mean, I figured he was asking him that because he was nervous about what his son was doing there, and was he the one who killed her?
I mean, casing the joint is like specifically related to criminal activity.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just like checking out where I'm having an affair.
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to say. But then again, he seemed very shocked when he saw the bike in the trash. So
Yeah.
I think he was just spiraling there and like thinking, is Kyle lying to me? And actually he was doing this, even though that's completely irrational for him to think about his 15-year-old son.
He's accusing his son of killing her when he says, are you casing the joint, right?
Yes.
But you just think it was just spiraling out there. Emotional.
I don't know. That's kind of how I read it, but it
weird.
Again, depends on how it plays out, right? Like, yeah.
It kind of also put a break on me suspecting Tommy doing this in a way.
Because he's too irrational to do it cleanly? I mean, emotional.
Yeah, and also he would have been the one stalking. Maybe he was stalking Carolyn. It was just...
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
It was just at the house when everything happened.
That makes more sense than stalking Rusty.
But, then again, he would have had to have stuff in his car to, so that was premeditated.
Right.
So that would mean it was always his idea to one time or another kill her.
I think the rope came from her house, is what they're going to say in the end. I don't think anyone premeditated unless it was back to the Bunny murders because it was the same date, June 16th.
Right.
They might have premeditated it, but if it was Tommy...
I have a hard time believing that it's not involved with the Bunny Davis case,
right?
Because of the rope
and the date.
Unless Caroline was some freaker that like enjoyed the rope thing after the case, but I don't know.
It's either someone involved with the Bunny Davis case, like Brian Ratzer, or working for Liam Reynolds, or it's somebody who has full knowledge of the Bunny Davis case who committed the murder and is trying to deflect away from themselves by framing it to look like connection to the Bunny Davis murder. So,
but I think if it were Tommy, then why even try to connect the case to Bunny Davis? Just kill Carolyn and have Rusty be the last person who's seen alive or with his DNA in his house.
Yeah,
sure. No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
So why even stage it?
Unless he killed her. Well, because there was like the two parts of it, right? There's the part where the murder happens, and then there's the part where she's tied up meticulously. So it's like maybe if he did it angrily and then was like not prepared to handle that. I don't know. But then how would he have like pulled that off in that amount of time?
Well, before we move on from this scene, I think I'm just listening to all you guys, and it's just making me really reevaluate what has to have happened here. I mean, it's because of the date that Violet pointed out,
June 16th,
about Carolyn being murdered on the same date as Bunny Davis, which is like, that's just something that's like, it can't be a coincidence. I guess it could be, but it's a stretch. But anyway, that points sort of more to Brian Ratzer, I think, because they would maybe do it deliberately on a date like that. Or it's really got to be someone like Rusty or Kyle, because the murder could have happened in the heat of the moment, and then Rusty could have intervened in either way to cover it up, making it look like connection to the Bunny Davis murder. But
By the way, the Bunny Davis murder was several years ago, he says, and I was thinking it was a year ago for some reason.
2019, yeah.
19.
Gotcha. She was tied up before she was murdered, though, also, and alive like that for days, I think they said, because he'd run out of drugs to subdue her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a difference
Oof.
as well.
Yeah.
And Carolyn was tied up after she was dead, so it does feel more like a cover-up.
There's also the possibility that the killer actually had no idea Rusty had just left. Maybe the killer came in right like 2 minutes after Rusty had left.
Oh man.
Right.
Right.
oh, my lucky day.
Michael was not there anymore, and it was the 16th, and they just
Right.
went in, smacked her over the head,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then did their,
Yeah.
dance.
Mhm.
Good point. That actually
Yeah.
makes more sense, really, because
Yeah.
that requires less
Jumping through mental hoops.
coincidences of them making sure that he was going to be there and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
They just lucked out that there's somebody else they could pin it on.
Right.
Maybe that's just a coincidence
Yeah.
that Rusty was there the same night.
It does read like I think you kind of started to say this before, but like with Rusty, like if he just got angry and they fought and he like killed her and then was like, shit, I have to do something about this. And that he ties her up to make it look like,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's how it feels.
Especially knowing that he had been drinking. So there's also this, like, because he was drunk, he did something that was violent. But then this thing happening sobered him up in a manner
Right.
of,
The adrenaline.
yeah, it's like why people leave, scenes where they hit someone with a car and they wake up from them being drunk and drive
Mhm.
away because they know so it's a kind of maybe that sobered him up in a way that he was like, autopilot, we have to clean this up. And
Cover this up.
yeah,
but June 16th.
I know.
yes, let's not forget that.
Now Raymond introduces the Liam angle for his boy Rusty, details the similarities in the tying, the threat in court. The judge is not a fan of this. She tells him to bring something real or shut the fuck up. So he reverts back to talking about the traces of skin under her nails, provides plenty of reasonable doubt regarding the origin of that. As we've discussed, it could come from a makeout session. It does not by any means prove that he killed her. Back home that day, Kyle's chugging from a hydro flask. Nice plug. Jaden's checking her text, and Barbara's prepping her art studio to paint again. You get the impression she hasn't painted in a while, but she needs to now. Until the sun sets. I think she's using charcoal. Who is that she is drawing? Her father, maybe?
That's the impression I got, but
Yeah.
I don't have any valid reasons to know that specifically.
Yeah, we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I laughed when she threw the yoga ball outside because those things always get in the way, and I'm just like, fuck off, yoga ball.
I did love him bringing up the case, the Bunny Davis case, though, because finally somebody
Yeah.
made the attempt to connect those things.
You need to get it in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like in court when they're like, strike that from the
Record.
basically they're trying to tell the jurors to not remember that they heard that. And it's
Right.
like,
They heard it.
That's not gonna happen.
That's
Yeah.
not going to work. Exactly. The damage is done.
Exactly. So I'm glad he did it.
Yep.
And now Eugenia's up to bat after much anxiety over it. She's quite honest, actually. She tells the court she walked in on them making out in the office. And in her memory, they don't even move apart, really, despite being in a very incriminating stance in the office, very closely together in the corner right in front of the glass part of his office door. It was just stupid. It seems like there were plenty of fully hidden options available to them in the very same office, but they opted for in front of the glass. And of course, it made Eugenia uncomfortable even before Carolyn followed her out of the office. She didn't say what happened then, though, and I find it odd Tommy didn't follow up. Like, well, what did she say to you when she followed you out?
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And then she saw them arguing in the garage. Rusty was banging on Carolyn's car window. That doesn't sound amazing in his current situation. Tommy asked if she'd ever talked to Rusty about it, and she tells him that she did. She told him she was worried he was losing himself, becoming a little undone, obsessive. Did you guys get the feeling she was saying any of this because of Tommy's threat to fire her if she wasn't quote-unquote loyal?
I think comes across very honest.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I think the words like obsessive and things like that seem like something she wouldn't have done before when she was telling Tommy.
Okay.
I'm not gonna testify. Like,
You're right.
Yeah.
you don't have to use words like that. Is my only, I guess, what struck me.
Right.
Yeah, there did seem to be like a moment where she was like her speech slowed down, like she was trying to think of what words to say. So maybe it was like her thinking, like you're saying, thinking about the repercussions of not saying the right things.
Consequences.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that she said she was worried that he was losing himself to her, he was becoming a little undone obsessive. It sounds to me like she observed a lot more than what she was saying, because if she was basing all that over something that she saw at a context in a parking garage,
Right.
I mean, I think maybe she knew more than she's said on the stand.
Well, and you see that like little moment where he's texting Carolyn in the meeting. So she was picking up on things a lot, probably just throughout the day.
She was seeing the nonverbal stuff going on.
Undercurrents, like she said.
Right. And him being distracted by it during other things, like throughout the day, he was distracted by her.
Right. And I think once she knew about it, once she saw them kissing or whatever, she just became more in tune with the little hints and cues that she was seeing between them, especially from Rusty, probably.
Yeah.
I do find it weird though. I don't know if I still get the vibe that Eugenia had a crush on Rusty. That's why she was watching him so closely, because I feel like that's pretty close watching.
Yeah. So you think she did maybe have the crush?
Maybe like with the text thing, how she was looking back, you know, noticing the text messages between.
I agree.
Or it literally could just be that she had seen them and she was just watching them because of all the other past things that she'd seen. So I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know. I just got the vibe from previous conversations that she'd had with like Tommy about Rusty. But
yeah, it does seem like she could be a bit jealous. Yeah. Now Maya's up to bat, and she thinks Eugenia had a personal vendetta against Carolyn. Eugenia admits she didn't approve of their relationship because it was unprofessional, and she didn't like Carolyn. But then when Maya points out that she never made a complaint to HR about the relationship, and neither did Carolyn. But did she ever make a complaint about anyone to HR? Why, yes, she did. Tommy Malto. Even the judge is stunned by this revelation. I enjoyed her face. And Maya rests because mic drop. Nico seems shocked-ish. How did they not see that coming? She didn't want him working with her.
yeah.
Did you think that she would want him prosecuting her murderer?
Yeah, I found it interesting, like, if Tommy knew that, unless he didn't know that Eugenia knew that, because, like, that's something that, like, did he not think that that would come up?
They had to know that was coming, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless he just didn't know that she knew. Like, she seems not to be the HR person, right? So maybe.
Right, she's not. But I was wondering too, and that was what I concluded.
Yeah.
Because she said she doesn't know, like, the nature of the complaint, so she's not the HR person, but she knew about it on Office Gossip or Carolyn or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said that she didn't like Carolyn, but she doesn't say why, and she hasn't asked, to follow up on that.
Yeah, it's weird. They didn't follow up. I would like to know more.
It seems to me that Eugenia has not liked Carolyn before knowing about the affair. So I don't know, her being maybe very like looking for the clues of the affair was not about Rusty at all. Maybe it was just about Carolyn because she did not like Carolyn and maybe, thought she was ruining Rusty's life, whatever.
Right.
Things you think of people you don't like. So maybe that was the reason, not the crush on Rusty.
Yeah.
But also she doesn't report them to HR. So maybe she was trying to protect Rusty by not reporting them.
Yeah.
I also feel like that's a bit of a difficult, like if you know that it's a consensual thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be difficult for me to like go report someone's relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm.
Like if it was inappropriate because I felt like somebody was being taken advantage of, then that's one thing. But if it's like you can tell that they're both, it's like, well, now you maybe are getting people fired for just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a harassment situation like the one with Tommy was more of a harassment situation on Carolyn's side.
Right.
Tommy's quite offended, though, as we may have expected. He jumps up to defend himself. Does Eugenia have any knowledge of him acting unprofessionally toward her? No, all I know is you gave her ick. That made me laugh. Eugenia flashes an entertained smile, but does manage to withhold her laugh. Tommy tries to get it back on track. You never saw me acting unprofessionally with her, but did you see Rusty? And she answers yes, and he concludes that's your testimony, right? Cool, thanks.
I did think she hesitated a little bit when he was asking, did you see me being unprofessional with Carolyn? And she was kind of like, not specifically. And it's like, I wondered if maybe she just didn't have, like, it was more of an instinct kind of thing, just that there was something weird between them, but she couldn't give a specific example of it.
Also, why does it matter if Eugenia was aware of maybe instances of Tommy being unprofessional with Carolyn? What matters is that Carolyn reported that to the HR.
Good point.
So, it's just Tommy trying to, in a way, gaslight what Carolyn had done.
Right.
And just, ignore her now testimony.
He's trying to change the image other people seem to have of him, but they get the ick from him because of how he presents himself to people. And Carolyn got that feeling and she reported it. She's within her right to do that. And even though she's not there to speak for herself, she did make that report to HR, which does speak on her behalf.
Yep.
And Eugenia, her knowledge of that, it's interesting to me, actually. Now, I'm thinking about that. How does she know that if she's not close to Carolyn? If she didn't like Carolyn, how does she know that Carolyn reported Tommy to HR?
Just talk around the office, or Carolyn might have said it, might have told her.
Yeah, if she knew that he gave her ick, that's at least something that she got directly from Carolyn.
Yeah, so they probably talked about it at some point.
Tommy confronted her about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure things were overheard and discussed, and gossip gets around an office pretty quickly.
Yep.
When they were in court, we have to bring up the wink when Raymond winks at Nico.
Oh my God, that was so good.
I don't know how I didn't write that down. It's so good.
So
That
good.
was so funny. Yeah, that was really funny.
It's while Raymond's sitting down, though, and I don't remember what's being discussed, but it's clear that Raymond is like bossing the scene.
Yeah.
And he just looks over at Nico and winks at him, and it's great.
It's so good.
It's just after Eugenia says that the ick.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
We see Tommy coming home to his loving kitty right before Lo tells Raymond she almost feels sorry for him.
And so did I when I saw the cat.
No.
I was like, no, don't do this to me right now.
I knew the cat would get you. It did humanize him.
I felt mostly sorry for the cat.
Yeah.
But it was like, there was like 1 second where I was like, he has a cat. No. And then I was like, actually, I feel like somebody should take this cat away from him.
No, he needs the cat.
No, I thought I hate this token of information that he has a cat because I like cats.
Yeah.
So Tommy shouldn't like cats.
Exactly. That's exactly.
I hated it. I hated this. Like, no, please take this cat away from him.
Exactly.
It reminded me of like the stereotype where, like a loner
Lonely
kind of
cat lady.
Yeah.
cat lady.
Yep, exactly.
Cat lady. Yeah. I was expecting more cats to come, to be honest. I was waiting for more.
And not only that, but he had like the cat trees everywhere in his house and stuff. And I was just like, what is happening? This is not right. This doesn't fit.
Exactly.
Right. So Lo tells Raymond she almost feels sorry for him. Raymond gets himself seconds of mashed potatoes. I'm a potato girl too, Raymond.
Same.
But he's worried. If the jury needs someone to pin this on, it'll be Rusty. Meanwhile, Jaden joins Rusty, who's drinking at the table alone. Jaden's thinking that maybe Rusty's it after all, and he's just disassociating because she learned about it at school. Rusty insists his memory is fine, and he's back on the treadmill in the next scene. Though we don't see flashes of his thoughts this time. But we're heading into another big confrontation next, so it's good he worked out first. Barb wants to admit her very limited infidelity. They only ever kissed, it seems. And also, I'd like to admit my weak grasp on the timeline. Her affair has now been months ago. That surprised me.
I was also surprised.
She said it was a couple months that she started going to the bar.
Right. So the kiss was probably like within the last couple days, right?
A little bit more recent.
I'd say a couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
And anybody could predict my reaction to this scene, so tell me yours instead. How did Rusty's reaction make you feel?
Probably about the same.
Even before he violently grabbed her. Oh,
My God.
What I wrote in my notes, I was like, seriously, the audacity of this man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seriously,
Oh,
that's what I put.
no.
Seriously?
Yeah.
In bold letters? I was like, what?
What an absolute twat.
over a kiss when he is like considering what he had done. It's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, she kisses another guy and he's had an ongoing affair with a woman that he fell in love with, was obsessed with,
Right.
and, restarted the affair, recently, got her pregnant.
Oh, yeah, pregnant even, right?
The list goes on. She's coming clean after one kiss and admitting she has a connection with another man. And he just goes off. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I honestly thought
crazy.
there would be a certain amount of understanding just considering his circumstances and how fucking understanding she's been with him
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, his whole reaction should have been, that makes me sad, but I understand. Like, that's the only thing that he's
Exactly.
allowed to say in this scenario. That's it.
Literally what I was about to say. It should have been like
Totally.
one sentence of like, well, okay, makes
And
sense.
his throwing in her face
Yeah.
how she's been making him feel. And I'm like, oh, just, I was so mad.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it was scary the way he grabbed her. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. I did get the impression that that doesn't happen between them, though.
Yeah.
not between them, but
Yeah, I think that may have been the first time he ever handled her violently in that way. But still, I mean, it does.
Yeah.
We're seeing these parts in him that come out in an aggressive, violent way. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's a part of his.
he's fully capable of murder at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not saying he did it necessarily, but
Yeah, sure. Losing his temper and reacting violently.
And one more point why he's like more and more suspicious is like who goes to works out and then dresses in fresh clothes without showering. It's like like what? Why?
I thought there might have been a shower in between the two that we didn't see because I wondered the same thing. I was like, is he getting ready for bed right after
Yeah.
working out?
Oh my god.
But he walks in his workout clothes, not in a towel or anything.
You're right. You're right. You're right. So yeah.
He put fresh clothes over his sweaty workout body. That is psychopath behavior.
Right. Before going to bed and laying next to his wife.
what did Barbara grab out of the drawer downstairs?
Cigarettes, I
thought
think.
cigarettes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because she didn't go outside. I considered that, but then when she sat at the table, I thought
Mm.
I dismissed it.
Going briefly back to the disassociation comment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, I hope that's not the way they're going to go with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
You guys think they're going to explore that at all? Because I really do not want that to be the answer.
I don't think so, but yeah.
I'm not saying I want it to happen, but it's something I've thought about. Is it could have been like just a blind rage and he has no memory of it, but I don't know.
I mean, they have shown him being confused about his memories, but it's like,
Yeah.
I hope that they're just trying to throw that in there as like another option and they're going to throw that away because, I mean, I guess when this book came out and when the first movie came out, it probably wasn't as common of a thing to have in media, but I feel like there's just been so much stuff about that now, like where people murdered someone and they were disassociating.
Right.
The next morning, Rusty's shaving, and we get the two faces in the mirror image, and then half a face after that. He thinks those shots were purposeful.
I like it. I like those shots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good.
I love those mirror shots when they do those.
I know. I also love mirror shots. For some reason, Rusty's doing something in a glove compartment the next morning, presumably placing a tracker in Barb's, since the next thing we see is Barb looking for her keys and Rusty handing them to her. But I was thrilled, I tell you, when he asks, "Aren't you coming to the courthouse?" And she just snaps, "No."
Yeah.
That made me happy.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't even think about the tracker.
Oh, I didn't think of that either.
I was just my guess, but
No,
Yeah.
that's a very good guess. It didn't occur to me, but
creepy also.
very creepy. Yeah.
Because then he's gonna like go to find this guy.
Yeah.
Beat the shit out of him too. It's
Mhm.
really smart, Rusty. Unfortunately, Mom saying she's not going to the courthouse makes Jaden feel sad for her dad, so she backtracks to offer to go. I was very distracted though by how much her sweater matched the backsplash in the kitchen. Did you guys notice that?
No.
Did you not? You had to. She was the backsplash. It was overpowering.
Well, the backsplash is like triangles. We talked
Yeah.
with Violet about it.
It's really cool.
Yes.
But it's the same color scheme.
Palette.
Yeah.
Exact same colors. Hers were like zigzag. Yeah. It was a lot.
That moment with them was like so sweet though. Like if you just isolate it.
Uh-huh. She gave him the most genuine hug.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he seemed really affected by it, I thought, like by her kindness and doing that.
He needed that hug. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it felt to me like he was not expecting it
Yeah.
and also surprised. Like it made him freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just stands there receiving it, but not reacting to it in a way.
I wondered if he was kind of just like overwhelmed by how kind she is because she's been like such a sweetheart to him like this whole episode.
Right. I agree. Barbara's apparently skipping the courthouse to go to Lowe's. Lowe's shocked that she told Rusty about the affair, but unbelievably, Barb explains that it's because she thought they were connecting again and she felt close and safe with him. How? But anyway, Lo decides she'll be going with her to the courtroom from now on. Barb says she's not going back today because today they're going through all their technological messages. The night she died, Rusty texted Carolyn 30 times. Lo's obviously more convinced than ever that Rusty did it. I liked her reaction. Her facial expression is very clear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Elizabeth Marvel. She's great.
I do too.
She's so good.
I like their little friendship they've got going on. She seems like a solid friend, you know,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
someone that you need in your life.
That's exactly what she needs.
And I like her saying that, you know, I'm going to go to court with you now. I'm going to sit next to you. Because that's
Right.
like the actual support Barbara needs is someone to actually hold her hand while she's sitting in court listening to all the crap.
Yes, agreed. That's a very good friend.
I also thought it was interesting that we also don't go to court this day. Like the viewer doesn't go to court.
Yeah, you don't see any of their unhinged messaging.
So we don't see this day where they go through his emails and texts. And I'm like,
I was annoyed.
were you annoyed?
Yes, I wanted to see it all.
Yeah, it's like the good stuff, right? Instead, next day, I guess, at the courthouse, they're discussing the son's testimony. The dad is trying to stop him from testifying. The judge is too, really. She's trying to get the two sides to make a deal. Murder 2 is a stretch, but so is Rusty walking free. They both refuse to back down. In fact, Rusty will accept nothing less than an apology, after his acquittal, of course. The judge gives up and tells him to be careful with the boy. When Rusty gets home, Jaden's sleeping on the couch, so he puts a blanket on her after failing to get her to move to bed. Barb joins him and they reminisce on the kids when they were little and then asks why she stays. Felt a little like Jeopardy to me. The question was answered by the discussion that preceded it, I would say. The kids. The next day, Rusty's protecting her from the press on the way into court again, and Tommy's opening his questioning with Michael, Carolyn's son. Raymond's not looking so hot. Actually, he looks very warm. He's drinking water, clearing his throat. His face is red. Michael's doing really well on the stand, I thought, though very angry at his mother and at having to say the same things over and over. He had a bad relationship with his mom. It made him sad she didn't want him around, and sometimes he would just go there anyway, once or twice a month, he said. Sometimes he would see people come in, mostly Rusty. Well, who else? I want more info on that. Tommy shows the video Michael took the night of her murder at 9:49 p.m., and then he tells the jury about the text Michael sent Rusty after the murder, about meeting him, and then about the meeting himself. Michael's stating a lot of opinions in his testimony. Raymond's objecting a lot to the opinions being offered, and then Michael talks about the man at work she was afraid of. The closer we get to the finale without it being outed as Tommy, the more sus it is to me, because clearly it was Tommy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Raymond takes a break from objecting to actually questioning Michael, and he's about to get into that question a bit, but he's distracted by a heart attack or something similar. He collapses on the ground suddenly, and I guess plot-wise, this is why Lo is here now. As she rushes to his side, Rusty attempts CPR first, and then a security guard defibrillates him, but there's no sign of life before the episode ends, and Lo is allowing Rusty to hold her as her life falls apart. Not that she probably has any clue who is holding her, but it's such a fucking sad ending. Do you guys think he's dead?
Oh, God.
No, and if he is, I'm boycotting.
This is the end of the podcast if he's dead.
The end.
Oh, my God. I was so upset. I just typed in my notes, no, 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 no.
Yeah. I know. And he had like his premonition about his head exploding.
Yeah.
That makes it worse.
Yeah, and he sort of was sort of having a heart attack in that dream or whatever.
Right. We thought he was.
Oh.
Maybe this is another dream.
And how awful to be his real life wife having to act like she's watching her husband die.
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think I forgot about that, actually. That's horrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, me too, until now. Oh, God.
Good point.
Just Kate, when you said about the premonition, you know, he had that dream where he farted and burped and his head exploded.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember how he previously had that dream about Rusty killing Carolyn?
Yeah.
And his Lorraine said, you know, generally dreams come true, and his other one came true.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if that's something
Right. Could be.
that they said because of that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, things always come up when.
Consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I wondered about a brain aneurysm too, just because of the explosion.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, like if that's what happened to him.
The way he dropped, I thought it was like, it could have been an aneurysm or a stroke.
A stroke, maybe. Yeah.
Because he didn't clutch his heart or anything, but I don't know.
But like leading up to it, like the redness and I don't know.
Yeah.
That's true.
Could be.
The sweating and the,
I don't know though. I don't know they could go either way. I don't know enough information about that.
Not a doctor.
Right.
So I don't know either.
In the dream with the head exploding too, he was like massaging his jaw, which made me think heart attack again
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because of the like jaw pain.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't know. We'll find out soon.
Either way, I would say he won't be finishing
That's right.
the defense. So I guess Maya.
Best case is he's in the hospital and he won't be able to finish. So
Man, what a freaking bummer.
I know, I love him.
What a bummer for everyone.
Especially the audience. No, I love him.
I want him to defend me if I'm ever in a murder trial.
Can Rusty defend himself?
ooh, Kimberly.
Yeah, I thought of that. He's definitely egotistical enough to.
I think Maya is the person.
But I think that's why Maya did questioning earlier in the episode too. I think that probably
Yeah.
the one taking over.
Oh yeah, there is another attorney.
right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm.
They probably get maybe a week off from hearings, but then they resume.
Yeah.
And that's the question if Maya is gonna take over.
Right. And it's interesting because she almost certainly thinks he did it, I think. No, but she'll be good at her job. Like she's clearly good at her job, so she'll defend him. But it's a little different than having someone who believes
Yeah.
in you. I don't know. Will be interesting.
I mean, Raymond's been telling it to him straight this whole time, but at the same time, I feel like he, in his own gut, he doesn't believe he did it,
Right.
even though his wife is 100% sure he did.
Right. I think he thinks he's a shitty guy now, and he's disappointed to find that out. But he doesn't think that
Sure.
Yeah.
he's a murderer. You know.
Mm-hmm. I thought the actor who plays Michael, Tate Birchmore, did really well with this scene.
I know. I thought so too.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And I feel so sorry for Michael. Like, I wonder if we'll find out why she didn't want to see her son and why he wasn't invited to her house and, just weird stuff like that.
Right.
That was really sad.
I dislike her immensely, and I know you guys like her, but she has no redeeming qualities. Like, why do you like her?
Oh, I don't know that I like her.
I didn't say like. I said medium.
It's not that I like her, it's that I don't think we've seen anything from her perspective to know enough about her to make a choice about who she is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't really blink an eye if it was regarding a man not seeing their children because it's so common.
No, I'd still hate him for that. I would hate him for that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get more because we only have 2 episodes left to like build Carolyn's character.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm at the point that I say we will learn fuck nothing about her.
Yeah, I don't think that if they haven't done it yet, that you will probably.
No.
Except whatever is related to her murder. If it's someone else, if it's Tommy or whatever, you might learn more that way.
I read an article the other day. I think it was David E. Kelly, he's the showrunner, that all the little clues that we've plopped into the episodes, when you find out who done it, it will be obvious to you, or like there's little clues spread throughout that.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
But I feel like it's too because I feel really strongly that it's Tommy. I feel like it's not going to be him now because
Right.
we've still got 2 episodes to go.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of becoming obvious now. You know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah.
now that I think it's obvious that it's not going to be him, but
Yep. No, I get you.
Well, but I bet you that there's clues sprinkled throughout that will tell you who did it, but there's probably also
Red herrings.
clues interjected deliberately to mislead you along the way too. So which clues are you following and what are you picking up on?
yeah, exactly.
I looked very hard in Tommy's house for a fireplace poker while we were there briefly. I did not see one. I only found cat trees.
That's a good thought though.
If he has a house and we're in Chicago, he probably has a fireplace. If he has like an old brick house.
Right. So who do you guys think did it?
Oh, stop asking us this.
It's Dave's fault.
It's too difficult.
It is really hard.
I have more beef with Rusty now, but like I would lean that way a little bit. But it's also like, again, like Kimberly said, I feel like any choice I make right now still has 2 episodes to make a U-turn. So
Sure.
but I did feel like this episode gave us more against Rusty to me, but I don't know.
So you choose Rusty?
I don't know.
You win $20,000 if you're right. There's no purpose in not guessing.
20 grand? Is that in writing?
Monopoly money.
I feel like it's the least interesting
Outcome.
Yeah.
ending to me, though, if Rusty did it.
I think it could either be, see, I keep thinking that it's somebody who killed by accident and then covered it up to make it look like someone else did it. And I think was Helen, were you the one that said that that makes it less likely it's Tommy, because
Mm-hmm.
if Tommy did it, he knew Rusty had been there, he just would have let Rusty take the fall, which is what happens. So in my thinking, if somebody is covering it up to look like it was related to Bunny Davis, that really, to me, points to Rusty. Or if it was Kyle and Rusty helped him cover it up because he had that knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's Kyle, but also the fact they still haven't talked about the date yet makes you think it's the other people.
That is still weird to me.
I do think it's two people because they kept like pushing that in the beginning about the other thing. And I think that might be because there's two people involved here.
I want to enter the Kyle and Michael duo back into the running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we're thinking maybe two people.
That would be quite the twist.
I think that would be interesting too.
That would also make sense, that Kyle being the emotional reaction and Michael being the meticulous in covering it up.
I don't think two boys could cover it up that well, but I like it.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
I just think they should be back in the pot is all.
All right.
Yeah.
They're back.
The thing is, though, what I just said about Kyle doing it and Rusty helping him cover it up, like I would think instead of just covering it up, he would also take the fall, because he's on trial for his life. And if he helped his son cover something like that up, why would he also be fighting for? Because he wouldn't want it to come out what the truth was if he was really like going all in to protect his son.
He's pretty selfish, though.
True.
I could see him trying to get them both off. Like he'd rather send Liam or Ratzer.
And he may be so arrogant that he thinks that because he knows how the system works,
right, he can game it.
He's an attorney himself. I can, I'm not worried. I'll do what I have to do to get myself off, and then we'll both be fine. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like his reaction to the pictures and stuff was too real, like to seeing Kyle at her house.
That's because he was by himself. He was by himself. Right? He was by himself.
But he could be upset that there was a picture of it.
Oh, that's true.
That's true.
Like he didn't tell him he'd been doing this more than once or whatever.
But like, so if Rusty did help his son, do you think that Kyle doesn't know that? He would have to know that.
Right.
See, it just seemed like their interactions don't seem like they've worked together on something to me, but maybe.
Well, I think that this caused a lot of tension. If this happened, I think it's caused a lot of tension between them and anger and resentment. Like Kyle's really following this story, like kind of on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he threw away the bike.
And isn't one of the first interactions we see with them in the first episode, at the beginning of the first episode, sort of an aggressive one, because they're throwing the ball against the wall or whatever, and there seemed to be tension there.
Yeah, it was a weird vibe, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was definitely a weird vibe. But I was just thinking maybe Kyle could have like gone into the house right after Rusty had left, or Rusty could have been there, could have gone into the house and been like, Dad, why are you having an affair? And smacked her with the thing, and then Rusty could have been like, how do I cover this up to make it look like such and such? Because Rusty's the only one that's like, bro, why haven't we looked into the Bunny Davis case? Like, he keeps at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He keeps pointing out how they're tied up exactly the same.
Yeah, and no one cares. Like, nobody else cares.
Like, I did it perfectly. Why aren't you paying attention?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You studied it all night. You're not respecting.
I had the picture right there, and I was doing it exactly the same.
Yeah. Maybe Kyle walked in on them having sex when Carolyn was like, what would Barbara think of this? Or whatever the fucked up thing she said in the first episode. And that's what pushed him over the edge. And he hit her with the fireplace poker. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know. But
So if we're going with the two people, no matter, like it's two people in any situation, who do we think would be Tommy's second? If Tommy is still in the pot.
Eugenia. No, I'm just kidding. Tommy did it on his own, I think, if Tommy did it.
Yeah.
If Tommy did it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he has no friends.
I don't think Tommy would, have a partner.
He doesn't have a single friend.
Yeah.
I wonder why. There is a rule of like a good thriller or like a good crime story is that you actually meet the killer right at the beginning. So there's someone, I don't know if they will go with this rule here, but it's like it's considered unfair towards the viewer or the reader to introduce the killer later on. So there are a lot of the times the killer comes up maybe just for like a smidge. Right at the very beginning. So I don't remember Michael, everyone was in the first episode, including Liam Reynolds. So everyone was in the first episode. the only person, if you want to go by that rule, you can rule out is Ratzer.
That's true.
True.
Was Liam in the first episode?
Yeah, they were in the courthouse and they were talking to him later on in the episode.
I see Brian Ratzer being sort of a puppet of Liam. So if Liam was in the first episode, then maybe by extension that connects to Brian.
Yeah, but it would be Liam would be the brain behind it in a way.
Mhm.
So I don't think Ratzer.
Helen, is this your guess?
No, I was
Who's your
just-
guess?
My guess? The fuck do I know?
That's how I feel too. I'm like, I don't know, man.
They make it so hard. No, last week I thought it was Tommy. I now think probably not. Not only because what makes me change my mind again is that Tommy is too collected during the hearings, during the trial, doing everything. No, he's like, even if you're a psychopath, I don't know, if I just look at him and listen to what he's saying, what he's doing, I think he has a lot of satisfaction of, grabbing or having Rusty by the balls. But I don't feel like he's kind of proud of having done what maybe
he's covering up for.
So I'd say Rusty again.
It's a good bet.
You know who's in the first episode, but very briefly? Eugenia.
Eugenia, yeah, she's there.
She is. She's in the first 2 episodes, but she doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be her.
Which is for some reason why I've been suspicious of her, but I don't have a lot to go on there.
Eugenia enters the chat.
Yeah, I put her in there.
Kimberly, is that how you think it is?
I don't know. I feel like maybe she wouldn't have said that she hated Carolyn if it was her. It's probably not a good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Although she was asked directly, so
Although she's on the stand. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember you guys know Serial, the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I remember there was an interview with one of the friends of Adnan
Mm-hmm.
who said in their interview, like, he was thinking about everything. They were like in the city or like a town in the middle of nowhere, and this murder happens. And, people are pulling suspect out of their asses basically because they're in the middle of nowhere and there's like really zero chance of some kind of serial killer randomly, coming across the victim. Like, I remember in this interview, he said, well, if Adnan didn't do it, who the fuck did?
Mhm.
It's like what do you say, the Occam's razor. It's like the most likely possibility is someone who's emotionally involved, someone who has reasons. We don't know if Rusty knew about the pregnancy.
Yeah.
He acts as if he didn't know, but we don't know if he didn't know. Maybe that's why, I don't know, Carolyn finally said, well, Rusty, just come over. I don't know.
Right.
Right. I remember this, it's like years ago, and I still remember this, like who the fuck did, if not the most obvious person.
Right.
What's your vote, Kate?
Kyle Rusty combo. But I'm not I have no high degree of faith in my vote. It's just what I'm choosing for the moment.
Same. Yeah.
Again, the date is the biggest hang up to me, which
know.
makes me think it could be Ratzer.
How have they still not brought that up?
Yeah. It's weird.
I especially thought in court that would come up.
The fact it hasn't come up is what makes it the most suspicious.
But the judge doesn't even seem to want to enter the Bunny Davis stuff at all. So I don't know.
There's also the off chance that they didn't notice that they put the same date down. It's a very small chance, but
I was wondering that too, but it's like they've
Yeah.
said it so many times at this point that it's like they had to have noticed that. But I don't know. Maybe it could definitely be something that was a mistake.
I mean, it couldn't be, right?
Maybe that's going to be the thing that,
The 7th episode thing.
or the thing that lets them enter this into the.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, give me something concrete, give me
Yeah.
something
Solid.
that I can use, and it's like,
But they would have to be the biggest idiots in the world if it takes them this long to figure that out.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
very true.
But we'll see.
But does the date being the same, I think it deflects away from Rusty a little bit.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because if it's deliberate, then it makes it more likely it was Brian Ratzer.
Or maybe he just remembered the date after he killed her and was like, oh, that's a perfect thing I can do.
Oh, what a coincidence. But if Rusty had noticed the date, he would have brought it up because he's been trying so hard to point it towards the Bunny Davis case.
Yeah.
He would have mentioned it by now if he put that together.
It's unbelievable that none of them have, though.
Either something's going to hinge on this date or it's a mistake. That's how I feel. It's got to be one or the other.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes the most obvious things are like the ones you overlook. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But you shouldn't in that role.
And it's also because there is just this one date that preceded it. It's not like a serial killer that you have the same MO and the same dates
Multiple times, right?
yeah. So that's maybe no one really sees the connection because it would have been like the second off.
Still very notable.
Yep.
All right. Before I wrap, everybody that listens, and there's a lot of listeners, thank you guys. Go to Instagram and follow us at Above the Garage Pod because our very talented Kimberly posts amazing things often, and you should go. All right. I think that's a wrap on our discussion of episode 6. Come back next week so we can discuss the penultimate episode of Presumed Innocent. Thanks for listening.
Bye.